All right, it's time for the news review, and I'm here with Enimwa Enimado.
Yes, so we're doing
Enimwa
this
is
together.
in black because you lost your dad not
Yes,
too
I
long
did.
ago.
Yes,
So,
so still doing the dark colors.
okay.
Yes,
All right.
indeed.
So my condolences.
Thank you, Israel. Thank
Okay.
you. But life goes on. I'm starting this morning with the Daily Dispatch. Let's just quickly do the stories on the front page. So World Health Organization declares Ghana's vaccine rollouts exemplary. I shall not comment. NPP.
Why not? I mean, I'm interested in what you have to say about that. But yes, I think we've done a pretty good job.
I don't know about, exemplary is a very strong word.
Well, if you're looking at how we have utilized the vaccines that have come through, whereas other countries get the vaccines and they're not able to roll it out as quickly, and they get, they expire and all that.
Okay. All right. Well, when you put it like that,
okay.
I'm still not convinced about the exemplarity of the situation.
Maybe, yeah, you can fault us for not positioning ourselves to have as many vaccines as
possible,
so that we can roll it out and get as many people getting the jabs.
The thing that actually really bothered me with the vaccine rollout was whether we were able to confirm people with underlying conditions. Do you know what I mean? There was almost no system put in place. So if I walked in, I wanted to get vaccinated, and I said, hey, I'm diabetic or I'm hypertensive or something, there was no verification of that.
True.
So I'm not too sure if people who actually needed it by the time they got there, got it. I would have wanted some sort of, medical records or something to actually show that this is the situation.
My understanding is that what was supposed to happen was the health facilities, they knew the patients who had those underlying conditions.
How did they know?
So they were giving, so those health facilities, ideally, your health facility is going to call you and tell you, because we know you have underlying conditions, we want you to come.
You know that didn't happen, though. In most cases, I'm asthmatic. My doctor didn't call me. When I go to the hospital and actually he can't find my folder, he doesn't know anything about me because everything is still pen and paper. There's nothing electronic. There's no data sharing. There's no... But yes, anyway, like I said, I'll behave myself this morning. Another story that caught my attention on the front page of the Daily Dispatch, Kayaye bath in headpans at night because the 1 Ghana cedi fee is too expensive. So apparently, they're charged 1 Ghana cedi to be able to use the bathroom so that they can shower and do other things, but they can't afford it. So you know the headpan, the gloga, not the one that they put on their heads. They're putting water in it, and then I don't want to think they're sitting in it, but that's their bathroom now, because obviously you can't stand by the road and be pouring water on yourself as an adult female. So it's a little bit worrying, and these things are happening at Tema Station, Makola Market. So obviously they're really busy places. Along the stretch of road between the Accra Metropolitan Assembly and the Tema Station. So if you go there early enough, you'll catch a glimpse of this. Very, very worrying.
It's worrying.
Very worrying.
Essentially, they're offering a free show.
Well, yes, it's also, I don't know if it's against the law, indecent exposure. I'm not too sure about that, but also their safety, Israel, their safety, because we worry about these Kayaye in terms of their safety, getting raped, getting abused, getting, all of that. So pretty sad story there. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, there is, but no, never mind. Okay, that's it.
Let me move to the Daily Graphic.
Okay.
So we have a government considering free tertiary education. That's President. He was saying that at the Global Education Summit. And then $200 million financial loss in Saglemi project. Collins Dauda, 4 others in court, and this has been a big story from yesterday. It's been on JoyNews all day. So we have that on the front page of the graphic, and essentially has to do with 2 former ministers in the John Mahama administration being dragged to court for financial loss. So I'll read a bit of it. It says the Attorney General and Minister of Justice has dragged a former Minister of Water Resources, Works and Housing, Alhaji Collins Dauda, his successor, Dr. Kweku Agyeman-Mensah, and 3 others to court, accusing them of willfully causing financial loss to the state over the Saglemi affordable housing project. The state is pressing 52 counts of criminal charges against the accused persons for intentionally misapplying $200 million of state funds by paying for 1,412 affordable housing units at Saglemi instead of 5,000 units as Parliament had approved. So there's a lot more in the Daily Graphic. So that's one of the stories. And then Chief Justice's integrity unquestionable, JUSAC president declares. But I would want us to go to the government considering free tertiary education.
Oh, okay.
And that story is on page 16. Yes, well, my initial thoughts to that is, well, yeah, it's great that we're considering free tertiary education, but I'm a little concerned about how we're using or spending how much, whatever money we're committing to education so far. I think we could put it to, we could get a lot more from what we're spending in education.
But Israel, I have a question for you. I mean, before we consider free tertiary education, the question would be SHS, free SHS. Do we really have a handle on that?
Well, I would want to believe that they think they're going to fix that.
You'll fix that and then add this to it. Okay.
All right. So President Akufo-Addo has said the government is considering free education at the tertiary level following the successful implementation of the free senior high school policy. Oh, it says successful implementation.
Okay, all right, all right. I don't know how my nephew feels about that. He's home till September.
Policy has resulted in some 400,000 more children getting access to SHS education in the country, with the government addressing the infrastructure challenges that came with the policy. So here's a quote. So in Ghana, we've taken the decision that we're going full scale ahead now that we have widened public education at the secondary school level for all and sundry, to try and replicate it at the tertiary level too, he said. Okay. So, well, yeah. And let's see which other. Let me just quickly run through the headlines, some of the key headlines in the graphic, and you can find that on page 2 of the Daily Graphic. So, Dampari Ejere begin work today. So, a new IGP, or a new acting IGP. Starts work today. And as I told him the other day, look, the task is huge.
It is, isn't it?
It is huge. And then Nigeria receives 4 million vaccine doses from the US.
Yeah.
That's nice. We're waiting for ours because we have a bit, there's some coming our way as well. And then on gender, break barriers that impede success of women entrepreneurs. That's the US ambassador. In sports, GFA must be autonomous, Coach Sampong fires. And then, Ni Amano Dodu can act as Unibank receiver until appeal is determined. That's a Court of Appeal ruling. All right. Okay,
anything interesting on the back page?
Oh, on the back page, Techi targets gold medal at Olympics. And you know, Samuel Techi, so Ghana's only medal hopeful, Samuel Techi, says his focus remains winning an Olympic gold for Ghana after its emphatic victory over Colombia's David Siba in their featherweight fight yesterday. The 20-year-old boxer said he was focused on fulfilling his promise to the nation by going past America's Ragan Duke at the semi-final stage of the competition. And then Ash Gold qualified for MTN FA Cup final. And there's Ashanti Gold cruise to the final of the 2020-21 MTN FA Cup after scoring 3 extra time goals to defeat Brecum Chelsea 4-1 in their semi-final clash at the Cape Coast Stadium yesterday.
Okay, so moving on to the Economy Times this morning. Ghana's current account worsens. Government misses fiscal deficit targets. And the mid-year budget review has nothing for Ghanaians. That's according to Ato Forson, former Deputy Minister for Finance. And he talks about the fact that he was looking forward to the government actually reviewing the revenue target, but instead they maintained it. And I think he's talking about unrealistic expectations and the fact that Ghanaians are still having a hard time with money. Another story, the middle page, 5,000 Ghanaians in affluent communities evade taxes. That's according to the Ghana Revenue Authority. And they have identified 5,000 Ghanaians. This is interesting because these 5,000 Ghanaians apparently live in the top 10 affluent communities of the country. So it looks like the rich are evading taxes. Some of them live in East Legon and other affluent areas. The GRA have said that they've been able to identify telephone numbers, and these people don't have TIN numbers. And so they are chasing them. He's also urging Ghanaians who have not filed their tax returns to take advantage of the government's penalty and interest waiver regime to file their taxes so that they don't attract any punishment.
Okay.
But it's just kind of sad, isn't it?
Yeah. So if they mention affluent communities, what comes to mind is the property rates.
Yeah.
So it turns out that most of these homes or properties, the owners of these properties are not paying
Property rate.
as much as they should
They
pay.
should. Okay, so not that they're not paying, but they're not being charged enough.
Well, yeah, that's the
Okay,
thing. So
okay.
you don't charge them enough. If you charge them 2,000 cedis a year, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, of course.
They're not going to come forward and say, okay,
We think that you should actually be.
I think I should pay 10,000.
Nobody
But
does
that's
that.
something that I recall the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, before he became finance minister, was saying that that's one of the things
He
we
was
should be
going
looking
to.
at.
Yeah.
And it turns out that, well...
We haven't looked at it. We've been
haven't
busy. We'll get to it at some point.
Let's get to Business and Financial Times. And on the front page, TechPair disturbed by conflicting deficit and debt figures. So I'll move to the story on page 3. It says, former finance minister said TechPair has called on government to be more candid in presenting figures in the budget which conflict with what is presented by multilateral institutions and international rating agencies, as a practice has implications for the economy on the international lending market. His comments come on the back of macroeconomic figures presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, which are quite different from figures captured in the reports of the International Monetary Fund and other international organizations. So he goes on to list a few things. So according to the mid-year review budget, Mr. Ofori-Atta said the public debt to GDP as for the end of 2021 had hit 76.1%. He further stated that the fiscal deficit during the same period was 13.8%, including the financial sector cleanup cost. However, the IMF Article 4 consultation released last week shows the country's debt to GDP in 2020 was 78.9%, which is 2.8 percentage points higher than in the budget. The budget deficit, including financial sector and energy costs, according to the IMF, also stood at 15.2% within the period, thereby contradicting government's figure of 13.8% mentioned in the budget. All right, so certainly these are issues which would have to be looked at. Also on the front page, GSE, Ghana Stock Exchange, records highest profit in 30-year history, up 78.21% year on year. So that's good news.
Yes.
But, I also want to know from the businesses that are listed whether they're that happy about their own performance as
That's
businesses.
interesting. I'm sure that's a whole conversation.
Yep. And also, Supreme Court rules BOG's corporate governance directive as lawful. And then on the back page, boss to explore out-of-court settlement option over 10 million CD judgment debt. That's an interesting story. Vodafone CEO wins Africa's most respected CEO in telecommunications. And we have Patricia Obonai looking really beautiful.
Yes, isn't she? Yes. Well, good morning to you, Patricia, and congratulations. Shall I move on to the Ghanaian Times then? Okay, so on the front page of the Ghanaian Times, free SHS to produce educated workforce for Ghana's future development. That's according to the President of the Republic of Ghana. Quality education is the only cure for poverty. That's Reverend Intim Fojo. And we talk a lot about education, don't we? And it's interesting that Reverend Fojo is talking about the quality of education, because that has bothered me for a few years now, especially some of the things that are in the curriculum. I don't know if you've looked at the GES curriculum lately, but a few months ago I discovered, I think it was religious and moral education. Right. We were teaching our children, so our 8, 9, 10-year-olds, about gender roles in a family. And of course, under mother's role was listed, you know, to wash, to clean, to cook. And under father's roles was listed, you know, to go to work, to buy food for the house and to give money. That's outdated. And so, yes, we do have some very outdated stuff, but it's also worrying because they're shaping the lives of our children. Yeah. So, yes, quality education important, but also quality that is kind of up to date, you know, with what's happening and the changing times that we're in.
But I find it interesting that he's brought up the issue of quality because there has been a lot of concern about the quality of the education that we're giving our children right now. And there are those who say, well, let's give access and improve quality.
And improve quality
later.
Yeah.
So, but it's good that at least he concedes that what we need is quality education.
Quality.
And not just any.
And yeah,
education.
not just access.
Yeah.
Okay, so other stories on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. Alhaji Collins Dauda, 4 others charged with causing financial loss to the state in construction of the Saglemi housing project. Court dismisses Empire Builders' writ against Topkins Enterprise. There was a couple of interesting stories. So tourists evacuated as fires rage in Turkey resorts. Tourism industry being affected. They're already being hit by COVID. And then, you know, things like this happen. The Ghana Health Service are saying we'll stick by our COVID-19 testing protocol at Kotoka International Airport. Over the past few weeks, there have been some debates about the process and is the word efficacy, if they're doing the right way, the right thing. Well, the GHS said they're sticking by it. This is their story. They're sticking by it. Okay, so there's a feature, Ghana's True and Actual Independence Day is July 1st, 1960. This is by Kosi Kedem. If you're interested in that, you can find it. But, okay, let me go to the story that I was really interested in.
Okay.
And that's foodstuff prices increase across the country. And we kind of have this headline at some point every year, don't we, Israel? So apparently if you want to buy Gary this morning, and Olonka used to go for 18 cedis. This morning is going for 23 cedis. Rice has gone up from 150 cedis for the 30-kilogram bag to 165. Maize has gone up. Corn has gone up. So your kenke is going to be costing you more. You're going to get less wache for the same amount of money. Less check for the same amount of money. And of course, this happens every time, you know, fuel costs and all that goes up.
You mentioned kenke, and what I want to say to that is, if you said the kenke is going to cost you more. If you don't want
you get smaller balls.
If you don't want to cost you more, you're going to have to deal with a smaller ball.
The smaller balls. Let me just quickly do the middle spread. Winneba University admits 10,515 students to pursue various programs. That's an interesting figure. It means a lot more of us are getting tertiary education, which is good. And the Angolan president will be paying an official 3-day visit to Ghana. So exciting stuff.
You talk about access to education, university education, and I'd want to, again, bring up the issue of quality.
Yes.
We tend to have a situation where there are a lot of people going through the university, but they end
coming out with nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So. Coming out with nothing.
All right. Daily Guide. It says, also has a story, 200 million Saglemi scandal, two Mahama ministers charged, and President explains education funding. Samiuku heads NLA. And, well, there's a cartoon on page 3. Oh, and okay. It says the Zazu sack. Oh. And there's somebody standing on top of some building, says, come see what them do for your back. And there's supposed Kojo Entry song, Semi One Taban and Kametu Ako.
Me want Taban, yeah, Kametu Ako, don't you? Yeah.
Yep, okay, so there's an editorial in the Daily Guide. It says, for the police, a new dawn. And I'm sure it has to do with the new
IGP.
Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare taking over. And then this other story, in foreign news, Nigeria's Super Cop, Abba Cherry, finally suspended over FBI fraud allegations.
Yes.
Hush Puppy,
yeah.
Story.
Who apparently was laundering money, I think, for some country.
One of the interesting things I heard about that story, apparently there was one guy who blew the whistle. Well, there was some fraud that they committed together, and apparently the guy wasn't happy about something. So he called the victim and told the victim that this is what we did. And then apparently Hush Puppy called him and said, I'll get you arrested. He got him arrested.
Oh, okay.
So he got him arrested, and then the police officer, this guy, took photos of the guy after he had been thrown in jail, took photos of him in jail and sent it to Hush Puppy and said, I'll put the money in this account. Wow.
I see. Okay. Interesting.
Okay, so yeah, that'll be it for me.
That's it for you?
In the, Daily Guide.
Okay, so let's move to the Daily Statesman. And again, President Akufo-Addo charges African leaders, let's fight financial crime. So I was listening to him yesterday during the news. He was talking about the fact that when it comes to trade, especially when it comes to African countries, we're treated differently suddenly, you know, the rules don't apply to us, courtesy is not given, and all kinds of things. And it really makes you kind of look inward, doesn't it, about how we present ourselves and how, therefore, we are treated. So interesting one, let's fight financial crimes. President Akufo-Addo charges African leaders, and hopefully that will start here in Ghana, the fighting of financial crimes.
Okay.
Okay, other stories. Samuel Uku appointed new Director General of NLA. Bawumia calls for deepened Christian-Muslim cooperation. This story is interesting because you remember what happened at Wesley Girls again. It really brought to the front sometimes how intolerant we can be. Yeah. It's quite a good amount of religious intolerance still happening in Ghana. And it's interesting because sometimes it's Christians against Christians, isn't it? And it's Muslims against Muslims. And then, of course, there's also the crossover. But that story is on page 3 of the Daily Statesman.
We've lived together so peacefully over the years.
We have.
Sure we can continue to live peacefully.
Do you wonder ever if it's just superficial peace or if you know, because you really don't know how peaceful a situation is until something threatens it.
Well, I'd want to think that so far so good.
Okay, well, that's optimistic. If you love Prison Break, like I did, Wentworth Miller reveals his autism diagnosis, which is, it's interesting that it's awesome, actually, that he's sharing it, because a lot of, we still need a lot of education on autism, don't we, and how to deal with it. And so nice of him there to share his story. I think that's it for the Daily Statesman, Israel.
Okay, let's go to the Finder. And the Finder has a number of stories on the front page. Dr. Dampari officially takes office as IGP. And quality education is best cure for poverty. Reverend Team Fojo Collins Dauda, 4 others charged, accused of misapplication of $200 million causing financial loss in Saglemi housing project. Unity of Muslims, Christians, key to development. That's Dr. Bawumia. Ghana is widening access to education for all. That's President Akufo-Addo. And then on this page 2, Tema motorway experiences disruption to traffic flow up to August. And it's important for those of you who are stepping out. The Ghana Highway Authority Saturday informed road users that the Tema Accra stretch of the motorway, so Tema to Accra stretch of the motorway would from August 1, 20 to 22nd experience some minimum to maximum disruption to traffic flow. A statement signed by Mr. ABK Nuhu, the acting chief executive of the Ghana Highway Authority, said the disruption was necessary to allow for repair works to be undertaken on the damaged beam of the Ashamang overpass. The areas to be affected include Accra-bound traffic and traffic from Ashamang towards Accra. The statement advised motorists to follow the traffic diversion signs to be placed at designated sections to facilitate free movement of traffic through the construction area. So really, for those of you coming from Tema and Ashamang heading towards Accra, be mindful that you may experience some traffic delays.
Okay, well, let's move on to the publisher. There's an interesting lifestyle piece, Israel. I thought the married man will help me heal from my heartbreak. And it's a story of a woman who, whose heart was broken and then decided to date a married man, somehow hoping that he would be a source of comfort and healing. I have one word for comfort and healing. That's Jesus. Nobody else, man. Nobody else, especially not a married man. But if that story piques your interest, it's on page 10 of the Ghanaian publisher. Front headlines on the front page. Awuku heads NLA, NPP stakeholders hail appointment. Education is key to prosperity. UTAG begins nationwide strike today. We'll have that conversation a little later on as they withdraw their services.
No, the statement actually said
I'll
redraw.
behave, yes.
So
I've been Googling redraw. I'm wondering if perhaps it's a new word that we should learn that maybe means something.
Let's go to the custodian. Akufo-Addo trusts Samuel Uku as NLA boss. Don't poison minds of citizens against government. Afeo Makin tells NDC.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
Okay.
And I'm sure the NDC would want to say same if they happen to be in power.
Of course.
All right, and then let's build robust systems against financial crimes, President to African leaders. And quality education is basically also for poverty. Wearing Fojo on that. On the back page, Raving Sun, that's what the Olympians ex-protest means to her. Ernest Emmanuel Lomote misses Emian Strip to judge show due to injury. Arsenal star Thomas Partey damages ankle during friendly against Chelsea. All right, so that's it.
That's it. Well, according to the Republic Press this morning, COVID-19 third wave, Ridge Hospital ICU is full. 16 beds, and apparently full up with patients who have underlying conditions, diabetes, hypertension, and so they're a little bit worried. Of course, as soon as we hear that ICUs are getting full, we are worried because we know what that looks like when we kind of lose control of COVID-19. So remember to stay safe, mask up, wash your hands, social distance, stay away from everybody, basically. Just kidding. Be like Israel. But should we do our online stories this morning? So. Okay, so maybe we can head on to My Joy Online. Awesome. Okay, Israel.
So Saglemi contractor was paid $179 million for $64 million work. That's
like over 100 and what? 150?
Yeah. $115 million more. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And the National Cathedral to cost about $200 million, Secretary for Board of Trustees.
Oh, you've reminded me, it was in one of the papers that we're going to use all the confiscated rosewood to build the National Cathedral.
Yes. So, do you have a problem with that?
I do not. I'm very excited that we're using, you know, I don't say illegal stuff to build, but you know what I mean. I mean, that wood has been cut and everything. So instead of exporting it, we're going to use it to build a temple.
It's also illegal if we're using it to build a temple, the Lord's dwelling.
Of course. Otherwise, it would just rot away, won't it? So don't forget to donate your 100 CDs a month, by the way, if you want to see the... I'll behave. Okay, never mind. Other stories on myjoyonline.com.
So Accra to motorway to experience 21-day disruption to traffic flow beginning on August 1, which I just brought to you.
Yes.
And then we're initiators of 100
CD
National Cathedral donation campaign, not government. That's the Secretariat. And corrupt heads of public institutions should not go scot-free. Haruna Idrisu to Special Prosecutor. 3 SHS uncompleted structures converted to classrooms at Prempeh College. And claims of fuel shortage at our depots unfounded. That's Bost replies tanker drivers. Okay. Elmina fishermen to continue observing close season as punishment. How are Kumsing? And that's a very interesting story. So, you know, it turns out that the fisheries minister was at Elmina to give some goodies to them, food items, and they rejected it. The fishermen rejected because they said, the fisheries minister said, when the close season or the season is opened, you can't, you know, engage in those illegal ways of fishing, such as light fishing and all that. And no, they don't want that. They want to continue
with the illegal
fishing. And so, if that's the reason you're bringing it, take that.
So we don't want that.
Take it away.
Okay.
So, well, they packed it all into and sent her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
and sent her packing.
And
interesting.
So she also goes to open the sea.
Open the sea.
And then she says, okay, so the people of Elmina, they're not I'm going to open it for them.
Thank you. You're under punishment.
You're under punishment.
And so you change your
ways.
You're
not going to get premixed fuel and all the other, you know, logistics that government would typically support the fishermen. But it turns out that the Elmina fishermen, they went to catch their fishes.
Oh, there you go then.
They did.
I'm not too sure if that was the best way of dealing with it. I think we need to patrol and enforce, as always. You know, just enforcement. And perhaps some education, because they do realize that if we don't take care of our waters, at some point we're not going to have fish.
But one of the arguments they're making is there's so much happening. You see all these ships on the high seas, and they're doing the illegal
and they're getting away with it.
And then you're telling us
that. And those are the bigger vessels, you know, sometimes, and these fishermen are using. So it's difficult to see, you know, these big vessels doing stuff illegally, and then they're being asked to stop. The question is, who is benefiting? But maybe we'll not have that conversation today. Are we done with online?
Yes, I believe we're done with online. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to get into some sports
Yep.
in a little bit. Don't go anywhere. This is still the AM show with Enimwa Enimado and
Israel, and we're bringing you a whole lot more. We're going to the universities to find out if the strike has actually begun, and the lecturers are withdrawing their services or redrawing their services, as they said. And then we're also going to be talking about, we're going to have a conversation about breasts.
feeding.
Breastfeeding,
Yes.
exactly. I was coming to that.
Okay, it was
Breast
taking you a minute.
feeding.
Breastfeeding, yes.
So we're going to have that conversation
Yes,
as well. And then National Science and Maths Quiz Science Tech Fair. So do stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute.